Hello, it's January 4th, 2015, 5:45 in the evening. This is a tarot card reading for the Reddit user Thatfoxylady. I'll be using the Aquarian tarot card deck today. My Aquarian deck is in Italian, but I've been doing tarot for quite some time, both with other decks and this deck. This deck is also grounded in traditional symbology, so even though I don't know Italian, I'm very familiar with the deck, it really hasn't caused me any issues. We'll be using the horseshoe spread today. The reason I like this spread is it's very complex. It gives us a lot of information to work with, and instead of using information you give me and selecting a current card or a card to represent you, or working with a spread that doesn't use a current card at all, this deck actually selects a card to represent you and your attitude in the current situation. So it really gives us great insight about you and where you are in the situation. So you asked the deck what you should be focusing on in the year of 2015, and it sounds like you've gotten a tarot card reading before, so maybe you noticed what I noticed when I laid out your cards. We have the Pentacles here. Pentacles have to do with physical goods and financials, so I definitely see that coming up in the reading. And I also have two major arcana cards, which the prevalence of these cards represent that other people will have an influence on the topic at hand. So the first card represents your past, and here I have the Seven of Pentacles. And what this tells me is you've worked very hard in the past, and you've done well with your job, and you've done well financially because of it. You deserve to enjoy the rewards you reaped in the past because you worked hard, you earned them. The second card in the spread represents you in the present, and here we have the King of Pentacles. And what this card tells me is you have done well both in career as far as status, but you also have done well financially because of it. This card shows me that you have not been afraid to share what you've earned with others. You aren't afraid to see others succeed. So I see here that you're open to helping others at work. Perhaps you've mentored people or given people advice, or even people in your personal life. You've assisted them in finding a job. So you're really open to helping others succeed. I also see that you're very kind and generous. So when you did succeed financially, I see you're very open to giving to the people in your life. The next card in the spread represents hidden influences. So these are influences in the situation that you may not be aware of, or you may not be aware to the extent that they are influencing you. And here we have the Nine of Pentacles. And what this really represents is financial security and living the good life. So what this tells me is, because it is in the hidden influence position, maybe you're too hard on yourself. Maybe you haven't fully realized how hard you have worked, and how much benefit you've gotten from that, and how you've really become a leader in other people's eyes. People can look up to you for how well you've done with your job and financially. So maybe you haven't allowed yourself to realize how well you've done, and maybe you haven't been grateful for what you've achieved and what you've earned. And what this also tells me is maybe you've forgotten how well you have it. Maybe when you were poor or at a less high position in the past, you've forgotten that status. So I see that here. The next card in the spread again represents you. And here we have the Hierophant. And what this emphasizes is what we saw in the current spread with you as someone who gives that advice and gives to others. Here we see you as a leader. So I do see again that you are someone who people can look up to for advice on getting a job, doing well on the job, and maybe even so far as how they should be handling their finances because you've done so well. The next card in the spread represents you. No, it doesn't represent you, excuse me. It represents what other people think of you and think of your situation. So here we have that other major arcana card. Whereas this, obviously, other people were involved because you're the leader. Here, this really represents other people being involved because it's what they think. And what this card tells me in this position is that people see that you aren't used to where you are in life. People see, as we saw in the hidden influences, that you haven't come to terms with the fact that you've done so well and that you're a leader. It's time to really accept how well you've done. As we saw in the past card, you've worked so hard, you've done so well, people really look up to you, clearly very kind and generous with your success. So it's time to accept that for yourself, to embrace that, and to be happy with that. The next card in the deck really gives us advice as to how you should continue in your life. And here we have the Two of Wands, and honestly, it really emphasizes what we saw in the other deck. You'll continue forming relationships, professional relationships, or you'll continue enhancing personal relationships through giving advice. And it's time to, as we've seen in these two cards, continue sharing your success. So continue taking on that leading position, continue giving to your family with those physical and financial goods. And that's the advice we have here. The last card in the deck shows us the outcome, so it shows us really what we can expect in the future. And here we have the Ten of Swords. And what this card represents to me in this spread is that your previous life, where you weren't seen as a leader and you had less responsibilities, will be coming to an end. And as I see here in this Hidden Influences card and what other people think, it's something that you're going to have trouble accepting. Because obviously with hard work and financial success and being this leader, there's so much responsibility when it comes to your career. You can end up feeling a lot of responsibility for the people around you as you continue to give to them financially, and of course it can end up perverting some of your relationships. So while the cards are telling us that you need to accept where you are, continue to be kind, and continue to be giving, just understand that your past life is ending. And it may affect your personal relationships. They may come to an end, and that may be difficult. But if your success influences your relationships, it has nothing to do with you. It just shows you what those people are. And it's better to take out the garbage now instead of waiting and allowing it to affect you even more in the future. So even though I see some difficulty here, some struggle with transition, overall this is a really great spread, and I see you have a lot to focus on as far as your career and coming to terms with your career and your success in 2015. Congratulations, and I hope you have a good year.